All right, y'all. Thanks for being here, and I'm glad to be here as well. I'm glad for the church here that puts on the Equip Conference. Especially glad for the opportunity you guys have to be in classes that are directly for you. As we start off today, we're going to do a little bit of chat, and we're almost divided like boys and girls. I don't know. And you guys just did it naturally. What's your name? Jeremiah. Why don't you come over here with our boys, and we'll really divide them. All right. So what I'm going to do to start off, guys, is we're going to do a little bit of discussion. All right. I want you to think about your next 5 years. I know we kind of range a little bit, maybe middle school, high school age, maybe a little bit younger than that too. I want you to think about the next 5 years, and I want you to think about, for the moment, I want you to think about circumstances that are good. Good things that might happen to you in the next 5 years, okay? So you guys can spin around and talk to each other. You guys spin around, so you guys talk as a group over here, and then I want to hear what you guys have to say. All right, go ahead. Good things that might happen to you in the next 5 years. I almost said something not nice.
No sweat, buddy. Only me.
No.
You want a 7-year plan now?
All right, let's come together and we'll get some different ones from both sides. So, what were some good things that might happen to you in the next 5 years? Anyone?
I can get a car.
Might get a car. All right. For the team to get their driver's license and get that car, some freedom. All right, what else? Some good things that might happen in the next 5 years.
Get a job.
Might get a job. All right. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. All right. Good thing to get some money in their pocket. All right, cool. They're getting freedom. I get that. All right. Someone over here. Next 5 years.
He's getting married.
It might get married. You might get married in the next 5 years. You never know. All right. What were you gonna say? Go to college. You might go to college in the next 5 years. All right, maybe a little bit further out. What grade are you in? 6. 5 years?
Great job.
Oh, we're going early. Yeah. Okay. All right. Those things can happen to you. All right. So now I want you guys, real quickly again, I want you to think about some negative things that might happen to you in the next 5 years, and not necessarily. Well, we're going to talk about choices that you make in a second, but things that might happen to you, negative things that might happen to you in the next 5 years.
That's not negative. That's not negative. It's dying. We can't.
Okay, we got our plan. We got that journey.
Is that a bad thing?
In the next 5 years, something like that.
That's not negative. No, I was saying that's.
All right. You ready? What are some negative things that might happen to you in the next 5 years? Anyone?
Cancer.
Might get cancer. All right. That's always a possibility, even in children, though it's low probability or chances that it might happen, but it could happen. Sure. What's something negative? What?
My dog
My dog
dying.
might die. Yeah, that might happen. What else?
Like moving away to go to your college, like your college.
Moving is always a hard thing. Yep. Debt. All right. Eventually, that could happen with you guys learning about finances. That's a depressing thing to think about. Someone on this side. Someone in your family could die. That could definitely happen. All right. When you think about these things, as far as your circumstances, I was thinking about all the negative things. Your mind could go any number of ways of negative things that could happen. There could be a tornado. There could be another pandemic virus. There could be, your spouse or someone close to you might die, or you might yourself die. You don't know the circumstances, the things that happen to you. You just don't have any control over. All right. What you do have control over is your choices. All right. Now, what I want you to do one more time is I want you to think about your next 5 years, and I want you to think about how your choices, if every choice that you made were good choices, positive choices, how might that work in your life? What are the type of good choices that you see yourself making over the next 5 years? Right? You understand what it's talking about? All right, go ahead. What are some good choices that you make? Not something that happens to you, choices that you make. To discuss a little bit. All right, so let's think about over the next 5 years, what kind of choices, good choices, that you could be potentially making in the next 5 years. Go ahead. Not something that's happening to you, but choices that you make. Andre?
You could be baptized. That could be a choice.
All right, choice to continue to grow in your faith, and even someone who is not yet to the point of being baptized, making that decision. That's great. What are some good choices that we can make?
Bring others to the church.
All right, I can share with others. I can invite someone to church. That's a great thing you can do. What else? Good choices that you can make.
Studying your own business, and then it becomes like it's like business or something.
All right, studying how to do business. You might even start your own business. Those are all good ideas. All right, and these are choices that you get to make. Anything else? Nadia? You didn't think I was going to call you out, didn't you? Any other choices? All right, this one was the fun category. The last one is think about some choices that you can make in the next 5 years that would be negative choices, bad choices that you could make over the next 5 years. All right, last one on the discussion, and then we'll be done with that. this one? It's very interesting. I was thinking about this as you guys were discussing. It seems like all the wrong ways things your mind can go a lot faster on all those ones than there's probably limited on the right things that can happen and the right choices that we can make, right? So what are some choices that you can make that would negatively impact your life? Drugs. Those things are choices. Stop going to church. That would be something that would be negative.
That's basically what I had gone wayward with.
Wayward. You can make choices that go wayward. Yeah.
Preaching the wrong things.
Preaching or teaching the wrong things. All right. I heard. What's your name in the back? You said something. Something about friends. What'd you say?
Oh, choosing the wrong friend group.
Yeah. I thought that was a really good one. All right. So the people that you spend time around and choices that you make, as far as those things are concerned, your friends are going to have a lot of impact on you, and you get to choose who you spend your time with. Those things are choices. Now, I know this is an easy question. Which one of these things can you control? Which things are in your control or out of your control?
Choices.
Your choices. Your choices are the ones that you are in control. All right? These things, as far as circumstances of what happens to you, those things are outside of your control. All right? I originally had paper, and I was going to have you crumble up that paper and throw it out, because you can't decide what circumstances come your way. You have different things with your family, or a situation at school, or in your home, and some of those things are good, some of those things are negative, maybe. But all those things, you just can crumble those things up, and it's outside of your control. What do you have control over? It's how you respond to things. It's the choices that you will make. And over the next 5 years of your life, you will have some good things happen in your life. Hopefully a lot of good things happen in your life. You'll also have some negative things happen in your life. But you'll also have a mixture of choices, both good and bad. And especially as teenagers, you will have good choices that you make. Your parents will be proud, and you will be proud of yourself. But you also will make choices in the next 5 years that you won't be very proud of. People and family and your parents will be disappointed in. All right? And so I want to talk about this as far as overcoming disappointment. And just remember, you're going to have both of those things, both circumstances and choices that you make. All right? There's two ways in which you can be discouraged. And again, it comes back to those circumstances or choices. Whenever we're talking about the choices that we make that leads to discouragement. There we go. If we are talking about choices that lead to discouragement, we're going to be talking about sin. Have you ever heard the basic Greek definition of sin? The Greek word is hamartia, and it means to miss the mark. All right? Sin means to miss the mark. Anybody do archery in here? All right. What do you feel like when you don't hit the bullseye?
I'm sad.
Yeah, you're aiming at the target. You want to hit the target. And when you miss the target, for whatever reason, the wind was blowing, there was something in my eye, I didn't draw it back right, whatever the reason is, I'm disappointed. But this is the same way when we're talking about discouragement that we bring upon ourselves because of our own choices. It's going to bring discouragement. All right? And again, whenever we're talking about circumstances or choices, I always think about what's the next thing I do. All right? What's the next thing I do? When your own choices have brought about discouragement, what are some things that you can do in response to that discouragement? You can pray. All right. What else can you do when you are discouraged by yourself?
Try to avoid it next time.
Try to avoid it next time. Can you double down on stupid? I think about an example. This one sticks out really strong in my mind. You remember when David was in the wrong place at the wrong time when he was king? He was in his palace when his armies were off at war. And he should have been off with his armies at war, but he was at his palace, and he was looking out over the city, and he did something stupid. He saw Bathsheba bathing on the roof, and he shouldn't have been doing that. And he kept looking for too long. And then, what did he do?
He committed adultery with her.
He called for her to come to the palace. And then he slept with her. Then he got her pregnant. Then he brought Uriah home. You see how many times he could have made a choice that stopped the missing the mark? But he doubled down on stupid. See, sometimes when we get into a down place, we continue in that downward spiral. We continue to make those wrong choices. All right? At a certain point, we have to come to a place where we begin to correct those things. Because if we just double down on stupid, or we ignore it, or we try to cover it up, or even sometimes we could even do this where I've sinned, and God, I'm just going to live in open rebellion towards you. Is there people who do those things? Yeah. All right. But all along the way, there's a choice that can be made. And whatever state we have found ourselves in, whatever place of discouragement maybe we have dealt to ourselves, we got to start to get back on the right track. We got to make an acknowledgement of this. This is something that Isaiah is calling out in the book of Isaiah. He's trying to get the people of Judah to realize, hey, you have gotten way off track. Now you're going to be in the hands of God, and punishment's not going to be fun, but the more you keep doubling down on stupid, the more you keep ignoring it, the more you keep going astray, it's going to get worse. I got 2 children with me, and they're right here with me, all right? And sometimes they don't make right choices, right? And mom and dad have to come and discipline them, all right? But the longer the making the wrong choices go, the harsher the discipline comes. Is that right? Oh, yes, it is. All right? The further we go astray, and the longer we go astray, the more that punishment is going to be seen. You mess up once, hey, you lost video games or show for the night. You keep messing up and doubling down on them. All right, the weekend's gone. All right, keep going. You go longer. Why is the punishment more severe the longer you keep making those choices? We got to wake you up. We got to get you to see you're going the wrong way. And that punishment gets more severe when we get further and further away. But the acknowledgement is needed. Repentance. What is repentance? What is repentance?
Knowing that you've done wrong and then going the other way.
Right? Repentance, yes. I've gone somewhere in the wrong direction. I acknowledge that. And then I say, I'm going to make a change of direction. Repentance is making a change. I'm going here, and I say, no, I'm going to go the opposite direction. And this is something that's hard to do. We have some of the older men that are in the class here. Does repentance get any easier as you get older? All right. But we have to acknowledge those things when we ourselves have become discouraged because of our own doings. All right. What happens, though, when discouragement happens to us? I want you to think about the story of Joseph. Y'all a little bit familiar with the story of Joseph? What are some ways in which his circumstances caused him discouragement? What's some things that Joseph had happen in his life that might have made him discouraged?
Potiphar's wife.
All right, Potiphar's wife, what did she do?
She wanted him to sleep with him and all, and then she told the guards that he tried to sleep with him.
All right, she lied about him, didn't he? Did Joseph do anything wrong?
No.
And so this is something that happened to him that might have caused him to be discouraged. Anything else you remember from Joseph's story that might have made him discouraged?
His brother selling him.
Yeah. How do you like that one? My brothers, they're jealous of me. They want to kill me. let's kill him. Ah, don't kill him. We'll sell him into slavery, make some money. That's pretty bad, isn't it? But that's not a choice that he made. That was something that happened to him, right? So we talked about that one. We talked about Well, when he's sold into slavery, he goes to Potiphar's house, right? And some things are happening good for him. He's trusting God. Then Potiphar lies about him. Anything else that might have made him discouraged?
His dad rebuked him when he was telling everybody about his dreams.
All right. Here's visions that you've had. And again, maybe it's where he's getting a little too big for his britches, or maybe, I don't know. God's given him these dreams. And eventually all his family does bow down to him. All right. You remember after Potiphar's house, where does Joseph go?
He goes to prison.
He goes to prison, and then he interprets the dream of the butler and the baker. Do you remember that story? All right. And the baker, he's killed, and then the butler comes back into the service for Pharaoh. Does the butler remember Joseph?
Nope, he forgot about him.
Ooh, how long does Joseph have to wait down there? Years, right? He's waiting for. He says, don't forget, I've not done anything wrong. And finally, then Pharaoh has his dreams, and the butler, said, "Oh, I remember. There was a guy in prison that got me out because he could interpret dreams, and there's Joseph." Imagine this as far as Joseph's story. What if Joseph had given up all the things that had happened to him? You see, all along the way, I'm sold out my brothers. There's a choice that I could make. I could pout. I could be discouraged at my brothers and at God, and I can give up. Potiphar's wife. I could be resentful that she has lied about me and sold me out because I haven't done anything wrong. He could give up. I don't want to go to prison. I'm just going to give up. In the prison, as he's waiting for that butler to remember him, he chooses to still remain faithful. The conclusion of the story, though, is that Joseph goes down into Egypt. He brings his family down into Egypt, and they're preserved. And did anyone participate in the lads, the leaders, last whatever? What was the verse? What was that main verse? You meant it for evil, right?
God meant it for good.
And God used those things for good. Preserved the family of Jacob. Preserved the family of Israel. Preserved the seed line for Messiah that would come through Jesus Christ. If Joseph hadn't been there, and if Joseph hadn't been a faithful man in Egypt, all those things are off the table now. You see how this man waited? You see how this man didn't let those circumstances get him off track? How does Joseph successfully deal with that encouragement? And I would say that this is where our text comes from in Isaiah. Look into Isaiah chapter 40, and we're going to look at verses 28 through 31. Isaiah chapter 40, verses 28 through 31. Isaiah 40, starting at verse number 28. Have you not known? Have you not heard? The everlasting God, the Lord, the creator of the heavens and the earth, neither faints nor is weary. His understanding is unsearchable. He gives power to the weak and to those who have no might. He increases strength. Even the youth shall be faint and weary, and the young men shall utterly fall. But those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. In the context of the book of Isaiah, Israel is in a place where they're going to receive God's punishment. It's guaranteed it's coming. Some of that would be the choices that they've made. Hey, you've messed up, and you're going to go into captivity for 70 years. Some of it might be circumstances that happen to them. Think about people like Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. You know those stories? Right? These are young people that are carried off into captivity. They didn't have anything to do with it as far as the sins of their parents. Think about Esther, who goes off and she becomes queen of Persia. She wasn't responsible for the things that are happening. But it's the choices that these people make. The choices that they make. And these ones, like I say, Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, Esther, these ones are pillars of faith in our Old Testament. And they're young people just like you guys who decided that even though maybe their circumstances weren't so great, they were in a foreign country in captivity, they still remained true to God. And their faith was vindicated. Their faith was something that God, we look back on these as those foundational stories of our youth. Let's come back to our text here in Isaiah and look at this here and see about God. How is God different than you and I? Look at verse number 28. How is God different than you and I? He's everlasting. He was here before time ever began. He's the creator of all things. In that same chapter, he talks about all the waters of the earth, all the nations of the earth are like a drop in a bucket. He says he's measured out the waters in the hollows. It's talking about God and how big he is, how sovereign he is over all things. God is the everlasting God. He is the creator. He neither faints nor is weary. Verse number 30 talks, though, what's the difference between God? God faints. God never faints. What happens with human beings? We get weary. We get faint. It says, even your young men shall utterly fall. If I ask my 8-year-old right now, who's in this classroom, hey, are you tired? I already know what the answer is. He's going to say no. Even when it's been a long weekend, at the end of all kinds of things, and it's past his bedtime, and if I ask him, hey, buddy, are you tired? He's going to say no. But I can see it in his eyes. His body is physically tired and run down. And there's times we get that way. We get that way of being physically tired and run down. And we sometimes need to be recharged. It says, even your young men, even your youths. This is like the guys that went off into battle. You get a kid who's about 16 to 21, he never gets tired. I'm invincible. No, that's not true. Even your young men sometimes get weary. Even your young people sometimes get discouraged. Right? But how do we face these things of discouragement? Look at verse number 29. God, he gives power to the weak. He gives strength to those who have no might. Verse number 31. Those who wait on the Lord. Those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not. The waiting is what I want to emphasize here. The waiting. Waiting on God's timing. You think about Joseph in his life. The waiting on all the things that he went through in the circumstances. But God was working out his plan. And Joseph remained faithful. Daniel in the lion's den, at the end of his life, he goes into captivity as a young person. At the end of his life, there he is in the lion's den, and he remains faithful. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, same way. Right. How do you and I wait on the Lord? How do we learn how to wait on the Lord?
Read the Bible.
What's that?
Read the Bible.
How? You're right, read the Bible, but that's a stock answer. You're going to get that in every class. Let's read the Bible. Why do I read the Bible? How does that help me to learn how to wait on the Lord? Does read? Well, go ahead.
It gives us encouragement and hope.
Right.
Know that our patience is worth it, and that what we're doing is it's for a purpose.
Yeah, those things paid off. Those things paid off for Joseph, didn't they? Those things paid off for Daniel, didn't they? Those things paid off. You guys live in a world that's instant gratification. Everything is done immediately. There's some things you gotta wait for the payoff. All right, the choices. You guys talked about some of the negative choices. What if you get into things like and make choices like doing drugs? Right? There might be a feeling that your body gets from doing things of drugs that in the immediate moment might make your body feel different things. But what happens afterwards in the long run? You go look at some of those people who have been on drugs and what the long run is for them that didn't understand the things of denial of those immediate gratification. And you can go on all those negative choices that we talked about. It's all for the immediate gratification. Isaiah is a book that's a big book, but it talks about the payoff that comes in the long run. That's what sacrifice is. Sacrifice is giving up something in the short term to get something better in the long run. What's the ultimate sacrifice? What was the ultimate sacrifice? What did Jesus do? What was the sacrifice? The immediate was the death that he suffered, right? What comes after death? Life. I lay down. Now, when Jesus talks about your and I's life, he says, you lay down your life. It's a living sacrifice. But the payoff is, wait, don't store up for yourself treasures on this earth. Where are we supposed to store up treasures? Heaven. That's the long run. That's the long game. Talking about understanding delayed gratification, but understanding also resistance to temptation. I think about that with Joseph. Here is a woman who is like, hey, lie with me. We're going to do this in secret. No one's going to know about it. Joseph says, nope, we're not going to do that. I'm going to stay true to my God, and I'm not going to do something wrong against Potiphar, my master. I think about prayer. When we're going through things of discouragement and waiting on God, and we say, God, why isn't it working out right now for me right now? Why do I have to wait? You can take those things to God. Sometimes those things have to wait. One other thing I wrote down in my notes was, it's great to have people with you. It's great to have friends with you. I think it would be better if I was there with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. There's a group of them. And that's what your Christian friends, people in the church, are for you. When Paul and Silas are singing at night in the jail in Philippi, I got a buddy right there with me in the stocks going through it. And we're not always going to be that way. It might be you're on your own. But it's good to have others with you in the fight. I want to play a clip real quick, and this guy's not a Christian. He's not anything to do with the church. This is a secular perspective, but I think it's a very good, practical way to look at things when the outside circumstances don't necessarily go our way. I want you to think about it. Sorry, 1 second.
One of my direct subordinates, one of my guys that worked for me, he would call me up or pull me aside with some major problem, some issue that was going on, and he'd say, boss, we got this and that and the other thing. And I'd look at him and I'd say, good. And finally one day he was telling me about some issue that he was having, some problem, and he said, I already know what you're going to say. And I said, well, what am I going to say? He said, you're going to say good. He said, that's what you always say. When something is wrong and going bad, you always just look at me and say, good. And I said, well, yeah, when things are going bad, there's going to be some good that's going to come from it. Didn't get the new high-speed gear we wanted? Good. Didn't get promoted? Good. More time to get better. Oh, mission got canceled? Good. We can focus on another one. Didn't get funded. Didn't get the job you wanted. Got injured. Sprained my ankle. Got tapped out? Good. Got beat? Good. We learned. Unexpected problems? Good. We have the opportunity to figure out a solution. That's it. When things are going bad, don't get all bummed out, don't get startled, don't get frustrated. If you can say the word good, guess what? It means you're still alive. It means you're still breathing. And if you're still breathing, well then hell, you still got some fight left in you. So get up, dust off, reload, recalibrate, re-engage, and go out on the attack.
No, that guy's a military guy, if you can't tell. But, and he's a motivational speaker kind of guy. And again, that's not something that I'm taking from the Bible. But this is the reaction that this guy has to the circumstances that happen. Maybe it's good things that happen to you. Maybe it's the not so good things that happen to you. What's his response to everything? Good. You got to adjust your mindset. Not everything in this world that happens to you is good. But can God work all things together for good? Absolutely he can. And so when we're waiting on God's timing, and maybe we're discouraged because it's not happening on our timing, or maybe it's happening where I have to be disciplined by something, maybe that's exactly what God is letting you go through. And God can work out those things for good. And so instead of getting bummed out and discouraged when those circumstances, the choice that you get to make, are you going to make a positive choice, or are you going to double down and make it worse? That's really what I want to close with on these things. If we're trusting in God, He gives strength to those who are weary. If we're trusting in God, we're able to, even when we sometimes fail because of our own things, or we're discouraged because of circumstances that happen to, God can work those things out for our good. In His glory, He works it out. I don't think we have time. What time we got? We got 1 second. Go to one place and we'll be finished with this. Go to Hebrews 12. We talked about waiting, but then there's also this other part of discipline. Look at Hebrews 12. Look at starting verse number 5. Hebrews 12, starting verse number 5. It says, "My son, do not despise the chastening of the Lord, nor be discouraged when you're rebuked by him. For who the Lord loves, he chastens, and scourges every son he receives. If you endure chastening, God deals with you as sons. For what son is there whom the father does not chasten? But if you are without chastening, of which all have become partakers, then you're illegitimate and not sons. Furthermore, we have human fathers who corrected us when we paid them respect." You guys have human fathers or mothers that discipline you from different ways, right? They're doing their best. They're trying to correct us the way they seem best. Look at verse 9. "Shall we much more readily be in subjection to the Father of spirits and live? For they indeed for a few days chasten us as seemed best to them. But He, for our profit, for our good, in the present, what does it seem like? It's painful. Nevertheless, afterwards, it yields the peaceable fruit of righteousness for those who've been trained by it. When I endure those things of discipline, correction, ultimately, it's hopefully for my good. And when God allows those circumstances to happen to us, it can actually turn out for our profit. If we will take that mindset, not be discouraged, but we say, good, when those situations come our way. All right? That's all I have for today. Thank you guys for being here. I hope